Todd Haley is an issue because it's a situation where, you know, they may have a professional relationship or what have you, but I don't see anybody raving about him that's playing under him. They've got the 26th ranked passing attack. They rank 31, second to last in the league in the running game. They've accumulated a grand total of 75 yards on the ground in the first 2 games combined. That is not Steelers football. And if you are, an Antonio Brown and Emmanuel Sanders or anybody else, and you're that putrid with your running attack, then there's a problem. Now, something could be said where, is Brown, are you getting open? Sanders, are you getting open? Stuff like that. That could definitely be a factor because if you don't have Heath Miller to worry about because he's still recovering from his injury and hasn't played yet, then you get to key on those 2 guys. And so they may be under lock and key for all we know. But clearly they think otherwise because their mentality is that they've been open and they should be getting the ball. And that's why they're looking at the offensive coordinator because if there were a real problem, then they would look at Ben Roethlisberger. They would look at the offensive line. But the fact that you're willing to go to the offensive coordinator says that you think there's a problem schematically, that from a visionary perspective, you don't like the direction this offense is in. And this is something everybody suspected would be a problem from the day Todd Haley walked through the door. His relationship with Big Ben Roethlisberger, he came in there. Clearly, he arrived in Pittsburgh after Bruce Arians' ouster because the Rooneys wanted Arians gone. And they wanted Haley in there. And so he's there, and it's a situation where, bottom line, they're not on the same page. And it doesn't appear as if anybody is enthused about playing for him on the offensive side of the ball. Ultimately, it's Mike Tomlin's job to fix. I have no doubt he will fix it because he has no choice, and he's a bottom line kind of dude. But I suspected Todd Haley was going to be a problem from day one.
You did.
And I've seen nothing that has allowed me to think differently.
You did call this, and I agree with you on this. I thought it was significant that Antonio Brown already getting into it with Todd the way so many players have gotten into it with Todd Haley. So let's step back and think about this. Remember who Todd's father was? I know you became, at an early age, a Steelers fan. Dick Haley was an architect, maybe the architect as player personnel director of all those great Steelers teams through the 70s, 80s. Remember those 4 Super Bowl teams? Didn't they win you over as a kid?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
They were built in large part by his father, Dick. So here comes little Todd, and he basically grows up of privilege because he's around the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's around the locker room, he's a ball boy on Sundays on the sidelines, and he thinks he grew up learning the right way to win football games. This is the way the old Pittsburgh, the Mean Joe Green Steelers played football. So I have no doubt that Todd's a good football coach as far as IQ goes because he was a Parcells product, as you recall, from his Dallas Cowboy days. But Stephen A., he clearly has had issues at every step of the way relating to today's players. Hey, there seems to be no bedside manner here. There's no rapport. And Todd didn't play college football. So maybe I don't know. It's like a weird click here of why it doesn't click. But he came from NFL royalty, if you will, and he handles himself that way. And yet the players say, basically, who the heck are you? We're not buying into this. His mandate, he was hired to come back and bring the running game, the bruising, hard-nosed running game back to the Steelers. And clearly, the team isn't built that way right now. We had Jerome Bettis on, as you've pointed out, Kerry, saying it's time to put the football back in Big Ben's hands. Just let him play backyard football. Yeah, let him make it up. Just let him figure it out because he will. He'll figure out how to get the ball to Antonio and to Emmanuel, maybe to that kid Marcus Wheaton, and if Heath Miller's back by Sunday night, maybe to him too. So I'm with you. It just doesn't feel right, and it feels like there's going to have to be a major change here for this team to find itself sooner than later.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because I wasn't aware of the whole Dick Haley connection, and I appreciate you educating me on that. Well, let me just tell you how it sounds based on what you just said, Skip. It sounds like Dick Haley obviously having a great relationship with the Rooneys. You know, your son is fired as the head coach. you know, in Arizona. So now we need to move in a different direction. I'm sorry, not Arizona, but we need to move in a different direction. And so here he is. We don't need him out there. Why do we have Bruce Arians? We could bring this guy in. We have a connection, all right, a rapport. We know him, his family, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know. I mean, certainly I didn't know this, so I didn't ask Mike Tomlin about it. But you're kind of wondering whether his hand was forced on this particular situation.
Maybe.
And it's something that he has to deal with.
It feels like that.
But it feels like that based on what you said.
Yep.
If that's the case, then you got an even bigger problem. Because if the head coach isn't somebody that signed off on something like this and it was something that's been forced upon him by ownership, players know about stuff like that, and players aren't too receptive to it, which could be very, very problematic for all parties concerned. And the only remedy is to win. And I just don't know if the Steelers have the personnel right now to win these football games unless the ball is put in Ben Roethlisberger's hands.
Well, Stephen A., you said yesterday when you talked to Mike Tomlin, and even parts of the interview we aired, it's not about whether or not they get along or if they like each other. It's about getting the job done. So do you feel that this is pretty much Todd Haley's style? It's not a matter about him getting along as long as he's getting the job done, which he's not.
Well, it might be a style.
Yeah.
It works if you're winning games.
Only
if you're
then.
losing, it doesn't. And they're losing games. And not only are they losing games, they're fresh off an 8-8 season that had them miss the playoffs. They had a 4-game losing streak last year and a 3-game losing streak. So you got all of that stuff going on. That's not Steelers. That's not Steelers tradition. That's not Steelers football.
Is it time for Todd Haley to go? And I know you hate to call for someone's job.
No,
I'm
not gonna go that far. It's just 2 games into the season. But I never liked him as the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers.